Visualize a time when the harmony between heaven and earth was absolute. Before the famous flood, the world was distinct, enigmatic, and full of narratives that challenge our contemporary perception. Individuals lived for hundreds of years, and their relationships with the sacred were much deeper. However, as time progressed, shadows began to spread, quickly leading humanity to a tragic fate. Have you ever wondered what the world was like before Noah built the ark? Why did God choose to cleanse the earth through the great flood? And how did the fall of the angels and the rise of human wickedness influence this extreme decision? These questions take us on an intriguing journey through a forgotten period, but one whose lessons remain relevant today. In the early accounts of the Bible, particularly in the book of Genesis, we are introduced to a different universe. Humanity was connected to God, and the first generations from Adam, such as Cain and Abel, give us a glimpse of what that era was like before the flood. However, even at this early stage, sin was already present in the human heart. Covetousness led Cain to kill his brother Abel, beginning a cycle of violence and disobedience that would become habitual in human history. The biblical story deals with the fall of the angels, an enigmatic event that took place before the world was formed. These angels, referred to as sons of God, witnessed the formation of the earth and extolled divine wisdom and strength. However, among these heavenly beings, there were those who rebelled against the Lord. Satan, the leader of this rebellion, was banished from heaven with his followers, establishing a dark kingdom that contradicted divine plans. Before the flood, the world was divided between divine control and the dominion of darkness, under the leadership of Satan. This clash came to a head when Satan tempted Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. The place once associated with happiness and harmony became the scene of the first great human transgression. Eve was induced by the serpent to break divine law by consuming the forbidden fruit. This infidelity resulted in catastrophic consequences, not only for Adam and Eve, but for the whole of humanity. Adam and Eve's lack of repentance led to their expulsion from paradise. They began to inhabit a world that, despite still having God's presence, was also full of evil and corruption. However, God persisted in his blessing, and Eve gave birth to two sons, Cain and Abel. Tragedy struck quickly, with Cain murdering his brother out of jealousy. Cain was sentenced to wander the earth, bearing the burden of his transgression. He settled in the region of Nod, where he established a city called Enoch, in memory of his son. While Cain and his descendants engaged in violence and polygamy, God created a new offspring through Seth, another descendant of Adam. Like Abel, Seth was also devoted to God, and his descendants began to call on the name of the Lord, in opposition to the arrogant and violent descendants of Cain. Enoch, a man who, according to the biblical narrative, walked alongside God. Enoch didn't live as long as his predecessors, but his existence was characterized by an intimate connection with the Creator. The Bible states that Enoch did not experience death as we know it. God took him to himself, an event that many interpret as the first rapture documented in the Scriptures. Over the generations, humanity spread across the planet. Individuals like Methuselah, the oldest man documented in the Scriptures, achieved longevity, and families began to structure themselves into tribes and clans. Each generation instructed the next on the ways of the land, agriculture, livestock, and above all, God. However, despite this accumulated wisdom, wickedness intensified. Corruption spread, and human beings seemed increasingly distant from their sacred goals. Cain's descendants introduced polygamy, causing men to indulge in violence and sin. The earth, originally a mirror of divine benevolence, was now plunged into darkness. In this context of chaos, the Nephilim emerged, mysterious beings who manifested themselves on earth after the fallen angels coexisted with the daughters of humans. These giants, portrayed as powerful and notorious entities, represented the peak of human corruption. Their presence on the planet only aggravated the situation, making the world an even more unsafe place and farther away from God. The Bible tells us that human wickedness was so intense that human thoughts were unceasingly evil. Seeing his creation corrupted, God felt a deep sadness. The book of Genesis describes that the Lord was saddened when he created man, because sin and violence were prevalent on earth. However, in the midst of this desolation, there was one individual who stood out: Noah. Noah was a person of integrity, respected in his time, and walked with God. His faith and integrity made him the one chosen to play a key role in God's plan to restore the earth. Noah, even with the world in disarray around him, maintained his connection with God, and it was this loyalty that ensured his survival and that of his family during the impending flood. Noah's mission would not be simple. God revealed to him that the end of humanity was imminent due to large-scale violence and corruption. He had to build an ark, a large vessel that would act as a shelter during the flood. God instructed Noah on the construction of the ark. The ark was to measure 300 cubits in length, 50 in width, and 30 in height, with a side door and a window at the top. Following God's instructions, Noah began to build the ark. The project was grandiose, and many of his contemporaries mocked him, questioning the possibility of a flood. However, Noah persisted in his mission, aware that God had a greater purpose. The ark would not only serve for survival, but also as an emblem of the covenant between God and human beings. Over the years, Noah and his descendants worked tirelessly to build the ark. Each stroke, each piece of wood replaced, demonstrated their faith and trust in God's promises. Meanwhile, evil in the world continued to grow, and human beings moved further and further away from their Creator. When the construction of the ark was finished, God instructed Noah to transport his wife, his 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and their respective wives into the vessel. In addition, Noah was to carry a pair of each animal species, both male and female, to ensure the continuity of his creation after the flood. Noah was also commanded to bring 7 pairs of pure animals and 2 pairs of impure animals. The world was approaching a drastic change. As the heavens opened and the waters rose, the ark became a safe haven for Noah, his family, and the animals. Noah was aware that this was the beginning of a new phase for humanity. Destruction would come, but through it, God would safeguard life and give humanity a new chance. When the waters began to rise and torrential rains fell from the sky, everything Noah had erected and believed in became the only hope for humanity. The ark, which once caused laughter and skepticism, now stands as a shelter in the midst of devastation. What exactly did Noah experience as he witnessed the world turning into an immense ocean of darkness? What was it like for him and his family to inhabit a flooded world, aware that everything they owned was being washed away? With his wife, his 3 sons, and his daughters-in-law, Noah watched the storm that seemed to have no end. For 40 days and 40 nights, the precipitation did not stop. In the meantime, the earth was completely submerged and all forms of life that were not sheltered in the ark were wiped out. The water flooded even the highest mountains, and the world, once full of movement, was now quiet, save for the sound of the raging waters. What was life like on the ark? Think of spending weeks in confinement, not only with your family, but also with a vast variety of animals, all needing you to survive. Noah and his descendants had the responsibility of looking after every living creature, providing them with food and ensuring their safety. What were they thinking during those endless days? Were they worried about the future when the waters finally receded? And at any time, did they doubt that the precipitation would one day stop? Although Noah had complete trust in God, the experience must not have been simple. They found themselves isolated, enveloped by the immensity of the waters, with no prediction of how long this circumstance would persist. The ark rocked on the huge waves, and the noise of the wind and water seemed to reverberate throughout the ship. Every day, Noah and his family had their patience and trust tested. However, Noah's faith remained unshaken. He was aware that God had a greater purpose, and that even in the face of all adversity, the promise to restore the world would be realized. Finally, after 40 days of rain, the precipitation ended. However, this did not indicate that the journey had come to an end. The earth remained covered in water for several months. The ark moved over the water with no clear direction until it finally settled on Mount Ararat. From this point on, the waiting period became even longer, as the waters would take months to recede completely. Noah was aware that he could not open the ark until God had confirmed its safety. But how could he predict when that moment would come? In search of answers, Noah sent a dove to investigate the earth, and see if the waters had receded enough. In the initial attempt, the dove returned with no sign that the waters had dried up. Noah waited patiently for another 7 days and sent the dove back. On this occasion, the bird returned with an olive leaf in its beak, a small sign that the earth was beginning to rise again. This gave encouragement to Noah's family, who were now aware that their period of isolation was drawing to a close. Why did God select Noah out of all human beings to be the protector of this new beginning? What made him worthy of such a responsibility? The answer may lie in his personality. The Bible portrays Noah as an upright individual who walked alongside God. In a corrupt world, he stood out for his faith and loyalty. When instructed by God to build the ark, Noah neither questioned nor wavered. He worked tirelessly, fulfilling all of God's instructions, even if it all seemed unbelievable to others. This unwavering faithfulness is what made it possible for Noah to be chosen to protect life on the planet. God was sure that he could be trusted to safeguard his creation and ensure the possibility of a new beginning. Noah may not have been perfect, but he was loyal. This faith was what kept him firm throughout the adversity, from the beginning of the precipitation to the moment when he finally set foot on dry land again. But what happens when the waters calm down and the world, now uninhabited and desolate, is ready to be inhabited again? Were Noah and his family ready for such a task? After all, the world they were used to before the flood had been transformed. They were the only ones left from a generation that had been devastated by its cruelty. How could they start again and ensure that they didn't follow the same path of corruption as their predecessors? The feeling must have been bittersweet when they finally left the ark. On the one hand, they were free, finally stepping onto dry land after months of seclusion. But at the same time, they were in a wasteland where everything had been started all over again. What would they find when they left the ark? A universe without inhabitants, without cities or traces of past existence, them, the animals, and the vast silence. Then God made a promise to Noah. He entered into an agreement, promising never again to devastate the earth with a flood. As an emblem of this covenant, God implemented the rainbow in the sky, a clear reminder of his compassion and the new chance he was giving humanity. The rainbow, today seen as a natural event, had a profound meaning for Noah and his family. It was confirmation that, even in the midst of chaos and destruction, there was still hope. There was the expectation of a fresh start. However, with this new opportunity also came new obligations. The question remains, how would Noah and his family face the challenge of rebuilding the planet? Would it be possible to avoid the mistakes of the past, or would humanity be condemned to make the same mistakes? God blessed Noah and his descendants, commanding them to be fertile, multiply, and flood the earth again. Noah, the man who found favor with God, now had the responsibility to repopulate and restructure the planet. However, even with divine protection, human vulnerability persisted. The Bible tells us that soon after the flood, Noah planted a vineyard, and one day he got drunk on the wine he had produced. This moment of fragility reminds us that even the most upright men are still subject to life's mistakes and temptations. Noah, the individual who rescued humanity, was just as human, with his imperfections and defects. This episode makes us think, how can we learn from the failures of the past and build a more promising future? Noah's story instructs us about obedience, faith, and hope, but it also warns us about the risks of pride and self-sufficiency. The flood represented a fresh start, an opportunity for humanity to rectify its course. But has human nature really changed? Noah and his family were prepared for this new beginning, but they also carried with them the scars of the past. When we left the ark with Noah and his family, we were faced with a world that was clean, but still full of obstacles. The task of repopulating the earth entailed the obligation to overcome past generations. The colorful sky was a guarantee that God would protect them, but how would they take advantage of this new chance? This is the question that prepares us for the future. How would humanity, starting with Noah and his descendants, venture into this new world? What did the future hold for them, and how would their actions influence the history we have today? On leaving the ark, Noah and his family began a new existence in a reshaped world. The land once flooded was now firmly under their feet, but now it was a vast, unknown territory, empty and full of opportunities. They had managed to survive the greatest calamity ever experienced by mankind. But now the real challenge was to rebuild their lives. How to survive in a world where all traces of ancient civilization have been wiped out. How to preserve the promise of a brighter future without repeating the same mistakes of the past. On leaving the ark, Noah set about building an altar to God. He made sacrifices, expressing gratitude for his protection and for the chance to start again. This gesture went beyond a mere offering. It indicated Noah's bond with God, the recognition that, even in the face of destruction, faith and devotion persisted as the core of his existence. On the other hand, God approved of the sacrifice and renewed his covenant with Noah and all humanity. God guaranteed that he would no longer devastate the earth with a flood. He sealed this promise with the rainbow, a clear demonstration that despite human errors, his compassion would prevail. The rainbow, with its vivid colors contrasting with the sky, became a perennial emblem of hope, reminding everyone that, even in the face of adversity, there is always a new opportunity. However, this promise also contained a question. How would humanity manage this new opportunity? Would it be feasible to proceed without making the same mistakes that resulted in the destruction? Noah and his descendants were tasked with repopulating the world. They were graced by God and told to be fertile and to repopulate the earth. Every move they made on that renewed earth brought with it the responsibility of a new generation, whose descendants would define the future of humanity. However, as with any new adventure, mistakes and obstacles quickly appeared. Although Noah was a righteous and upright individual, he also had his vulnerabilities. The Bible tells us that shortly after the flood, Noah planted a vineyard, and from its fruit came wine. On one occasion, he got drunk, demonstrating that, even after all the events, sin still persisted in the human actions. Ham, one of his sons, observed Noah in a fragile situation and responded with disdain. This event resulted in a curse for Ham's descendants, showing that even in a renewed world, the repercussions of our decisions persist. This passage reminds us that even when we have a new opportunity, we are continually challenged by our own weaknesses. The flood cleansed the planet, but it didn't change the essence of humanity. It was the duty of Noah and his descendants to seek to build a life that glorified God, that was equitable and in keeping with the covenant he had established with them. Over the years, Noah's descendants, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, began to establish their own families and expanded across the planet, giving rise to new tribes and countries. The earth sprang to life again. The generations following Noah not only inherited the divine promise, but also the obstacles of inhabiting a world in formation. Each new city, each new settlement was an effort to re-establish harmony with God and with others. Although he made mistakes, Noah left a legacy of faith and persistence. He wasn't perfect, but his faithfulness to God was what ensured humanity's survival. Despite the immense tragedy, the flood also served as a powerful reminder of God's compassion. It didn't completely wipe out the world, but it gave humanity a new chance, assigning Noah and his family the task of rebuilding and restarting. The valuable lesson Noah left us is that the world can be renewed, but the human heart needs continual transformation. Even when we have a new chance, as Noah did, it is our responsibility to make the right choices, always seeking to honor God and live according to his precepts. It is a reminder that, even in the face of adversity and obstacles, faith and obedience are the paths to genuine renewal. As the earth was repopulated, new generations emerged, bringing with them new challenges. Noah's story leads us to ask, would humanity, given the opportunity to start again, learn from previous mistakes? Or would pride and disobedience once again become obstacles to the divine plan? Unfortunately, the answer would be complicated. Throughout history, we see that even after Noah, humanity persisted in going astray at various times. However, God's promise to never flood the earth again remained unchanged, reminding us that his compassion is everlasting. Today, Noah's story continues to motivate us. We inhabit a world that often seems to be on the verge of spinning out of control. However, just as in Noah's time, God continually offers us a new opportunity. He invites us to live in submission, to care for one another, and to honor creation. The rainbow we see in the sky today is a reminder that even when everything seems hopeless, there is always hope. There is always a new chance to start again. The lesson Noah conveys to us is clear. It is faith that keeps us steadfast in the midst of storms. Regardless of the intensity of the flood we face in our lives, God is by our side, guiding and protecting us. Like Noah, we are called to believe in his promises, even when the world around us seems to be falling apart. As we contemplate the future, we can take inspiration from Noah's story. He dealt with obstacles that seemed insurmountable, but his faith sustained him. And this can also happen to us. We may not be building a concrete ark, but we are building our existences, our homes, and our communities. Like Noah, we have the option of building based on faith, obedience, and hope. May Noah's story motivate us to live with purpose, to be light in the midst of darkness, and to never abandon the promise of a new beginning. We all have the chance to make an impact, to live a life that glorifies God, and to pass on a legacy of faith to the next generations. If this story has inspired you, leave a like, share this video with someone you love, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on more life-changing content. I wish God protection for you and your family, and that together we can continue to pass on the message of hope and renewal to the world.